Hello and welcome back to our this time 12th episode. I got it wrong last time. We don't have a raptor with us because he decided to bail, but that's perfectly fine. We've already got a peanut gallery, so we don't need another. But this time around,
Peanut gallery.
it's the peanut gallery. We're gonna be talking about Miraculous Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. um, that sets the mood. Okay, so for, for the few that don't know what Miraculous is, it's a French cartoon that was made in co-production with other studios. Excuse me. And it's about a 13-year-old when the show starts, later turns 14. But
Oh God.
essentially, yeah, you're welcome. Essentially, a teenager, a preteen, if you will, who gains the power of the Ladybug Miraculous, and uh, and a boy who gains the power of the Black Cat, the powers of creation and destruction, essentially. And they have to use their powers for good against the evil Hawk Moth, who's trying to get a hold of their Miraculouses. And this goes on for about like 4 seasons worth. You get some plot here and there, some lore, all that fun jazz. But at its core, it's a monster of the week kind of show. And if you're looking for something interesting, Ruthless, the show first aired back in 2015.
Nice.
Yes, so you can see when it is when it really had its moments. But the show is not known for having the best writing, I guess is the best way to put it. There's probably a few other things it's also not known for. We're not gonna get into the whole thing with Thomas Astruck because that's a whole nother can of worms, and he's not
Um,
directing it this season
Thank
5.
God. Thank fucking
So
God.
we're we're going to ignore that. But Skull, just for quick context, Thomas Astruck is the man who created the concept of Ladybug. It was actually a
I know
comic.
that much.
Yeah, it was a comic before. Um, but the man cannot handle criticism. And basically, if you talked ill of his show or like tried to like give him even constructive criticism, he would block you immediately on Twitter.
Hmm,
He was petty.
that's funny.
Yeah. And not to mention doing random stuff that even I as a writer know not to do, like just a quick example. So we're going to get into more of these characters later. But for example, like Luca is introduced to this story. I think in like season 2 or something like that. It has to be season 2, I think. It all blurs after a while because it's all the same. Um, but it's kind of hinted that he's older than Julika, who's his younger sister. But I think season 4, yes, season 4, uh, they're actually twins. And Thomas Astruck said he just wanted to make them twins.
No. That's not how mafia works.
Okay, so now that we've got like the basics in, Ruthless, don't worry, you'll have your moments to shine. I could hear you wanting to say stuff so bad, but we'll get there shortly. Don't you worry. So Ruthless, of course, has his own thoughts on it. Skull knows a decent amount, at least, to hopefully contribute, at least more than Raptor would. Um, and I've had the misfortune or
Yeah.
fortune, however you want to say it, to have watched all 4 seasons
The
so far.
fortunate misfortune.
Yeah, the fortunate misfortune of having watched all 4 seasons at this point. I'm still waiting for the dub for season 5. I know I can watch the sub somewhere on the internet, but I also have better things to do with my time. Um, I've seen.
I could give you a shitty French to English translation.
I'm sure you could, but I'm not gonna put you through that. I'm I'm nicer than that, all right.
It would help my French
But
skills.
Yeah, so four seasons that are dubbed. There's a fifth
Miraculous
one
and
that's
torture
sub.
sometimes.
It is torture. And then there's two movies with a third one on the way, but the third one's gonna be non-canon, so we don't actually count that one, because it's basically just like the anime version of it, just remade 3D and it's style now. So yeah, we don't talk about that. Just like we don't.
Ugh,
Yeah, I know.
that's painful.
I mean,
That
I
deep
kind of
spot.
look forward to it a little bit because I would have loved that version of Miraculous a lot more. But this is a different thing. But I'm just gonna say this right now before we actually start getting into this. I can appreciate what the show is for the audience it is. Now, like I said, it came out in 2015. I was fresh out of high school at that point, more or less, by the time it released. So I was 19 maybe when it came out. And I remember seeing it and thinking, what the fuck am I watching? But also at the same time, I want to see more. it it was good for what it was. Like if it stayed a
Yes,
monster of the week
the
kind of thing,
curse.
I would have been fine with that because there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that formula. Um, and I think that's where the show does fail a little bit, but it works for what it is, and that is as a little kids show. And I say little kids and not preteens because I know it's more targeted towards preteens because of the ages of the protagonists. But I have talked to other preteens because of like knowing parents and things like that, and their kids cannot stand this show. I've
Yeah, the only
even
kid I've seen that's actually enjoyed the show is my 6-year-old sister. So,
exactly.
yeah,
I mean, even when I went to
there you go.
ASEN and I dressed as Cat Noir, because Cat Noir is my favorite character amongst one other, which I'll get into a little bit later. And I had little kids coming up to me and their parents telling me how much the kids love the show. And these are like kids that are like 5, 6, 7 years old. So it gives you a bit of an idea of where the demographic is. And of course, you're still going to have your preteens
Yeah.
in there and teenagers because I think we've seen some cursed images to know what they're here for.
Yeah.
I think your comment about one of them, Skull, why does he have an F cup, was the best thing ever. I won't forget that. That was great.
Hey, don't quote me on that, please.
It's too
That was not my
late.
best moment.
It was a great moment. I don't know what the fuck you mean.
It was. It is.
It was
I
great.
hate you guys.
You love us. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, yes, no. It's depending on the audience, but I will say there is a target for like even people my age who do enjoy it, but we don't really partake in the kid superheroes, but more in the adult kind of stuff there. And I've seen them on Instagram, and I know full well why. It's that's also another story for another time. The short version is I attract all the Natalie stans as well as the Gabriel Natalie shippers on Instagram, and I fully embrace it. I accept my fate. But the show does have problems if you're looking at it from a more it's like an older lens essentially. So like someone like me who I claim to be a professional writer, I let everyone else decide if they think I'm professional or not. But I see a lot of glaring flaws with it, and I know Ruthless definitely sees flaws from a superhero perspective, because this man loves superhero comics and superhero stuff. So
But
yeah.
I love comics, and I even read manga, and I even sometimes read webtoon. I actually think webtoon is a little bit more digestible than um comics.
Well, I mean, webtoons are just webcomics. Ooh, excuse me.
Yeah.
So it's essentially the
Yeah.
same thing, just
Yeah.
different medium, or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck you call it. But we definitely see the flaws in
Yeah.
the show, and I'm sure Skull, even though you haven't seen a whole lot of it, but from what you have been exposed
I've
to,
I've read a majority of Homestuck, and I know shitty writing, and I cannot handle Miraculous. I've tried, and I just couldn't.
don't worry. I showed Kitty because I know you two know, and for anyone else who fucking doesn't give a damn, I am writing a Miraculous rewrite of the entire show, essentially, as an AU, and I have my friend Kitty read it, and she likes it, but she didn't have any context to the show itself. So I had her watch Origins 1 and 2 and Stormy Weather. And her reactions were priceless. It was fucking great. She just had this look of, what the fuck am I watching? And what the fuck is going on? Like, there's just utter confusion and bewilderment. And it was marvelous. she,
I can relate to that.
yeah, I feel that. But, I will say going into this that season 1 is probably one of the better ones in terms of just monster of the week kind of content, which is what it was originally kind of made for. Not originally, but like after being in production hell, obviously, which I understand that can cause problems when it comes to certain things. But at the same time, in an era now, and I know we didn't really have it back then, because this is back in 2015 when this was released, and who knows how long it was actually in production hell, but like, you can still make a good show regardless, because there's been lots of projects stuck in that kind of state, but they've turned out phenomenal regardless, because of a team that put in the effort. But in terms of it being like a monster of the week, season 1 was really good for that. It was cringy, don't get me wrong. Like, um, a lot of one-liners, puns, and things like that, which I admit I couldn't help but smile at sometimes. And I believe Chat Noir had like his best moments in season 1. And I still will say, to this day, Stormy Weather was the best episode for him. The technical first episode for the series. Stormy Weather was probably the best for Cat Noir. After that, it's just pretty bad after that. Seasons 2 and 3 kind of went downhill as they started introducing lore and things along like that and trying to develop a plot like in season 3, moving onward. Season 4 was decent for the shift in the show as what it is. I do actually appreciate the season 4 finale. It was pretty good. It was a big turn for what it is, but I have seen evolution at the very least, the first episode of season 5, um, through clips on YouTube and things like that, which, yeah. Some subtitles were there, but not a lot. And I don't know, like, there's some plot armor going on there, I'm not going to lie, but, no, yeah, I actually need to see all of I need season 5 to get a true feel for it. But season 4 was okay. I mean, it wasn't the best, but it was better. It was better than season 2 and 3. I can at least say that. Um, but I think a lot of the problem lies with the characters as much as the writing and the writing of the characters. Would you two agree with that?
I would agree with
Yeah.
that. Another thing
Yeah.
that, yeah, I think another thing that's like a fundamental problem, and it's like a fundamental problem that's a writer problem, is a status quo changer. Like having like an idea of like, so any idea, I think a lot of ideas can work. It's just a matter of how you write it.
It's the
And
execution.
yeah, and with Astruck's idea of the romance of like the whole Ladybug and Cat Noir romance could work in a hybrid. But the problem with overall with that idea is the fact that you're going to the hybrid territory. You're going to the territory where you got to change the status quo. But he previously would say that nothing would change. You can go into the show without knowing anything with all the episodes. That is very anti-status quo of like having the relationship, and it breaks the mold of the status quo. And if you're gonna have something like that that breaks the status quo that quickly,
Well,
then people would have to know.
Completely lost me.
I am a little lost too, but in terms of like what I'm, because I know you're talking about the love square that they've got going on here, and
I'm okay. I'm kind of speaking very convoluted. I'll actually speak more clearly. It's supposed to
Please,
be
I am very stupid.
no. It's fine.
we're
I
all
kind of
working
speak.
with half a brain cell, and my brain
Yeah.
cells are turning into manic ones, and you guys get to deal with all that. Plus, caffeine doesn't help either. So,
Oh, welcome to the caffeine club.
I've been in
Oh,
it for a
that's like
while. It's just mixing with sleep deprivation. So,
yeah.
anyway, go ahead, Ruthless.
Just to rephrase it, it's just because I was like part of my brain was like started speaking in jibble jabber.
You went
Um.
businessman mode.
Yes.
Businessman.
Yes. Businessman. But anyways, pretty much what I'm saying is, if you're gonna have something that's quo changing, right? That is definitely changing the status quo.
Okay,
But
so what exactly do you mean, like in this regards, changing the status quo? That's what I'm
like
curious.
the relationship, like having the romance plot, like it has to move forward. It has to keep move. Like it kind of has to progress. If you're gonna have not the whole idea of the show of like just me going off of memory from
Well,
what Ashtra said.
so let me interject with this bit here. So, because of the type of show that Miraculous is, with its romance, it's not really, even though it has the love square, the problem with these type of shows is that the moment the main leads are introduced, you know immediately they're going to be together for the most part. Now there have been some
Yeah,
shows obviously that are, ooh, excuse me, are obviously breaking that in some ways, but with Miraculous, they weren't attempting to really break it, but just add more drama with the whole love square, which I'm not going to lie, it was a big draw for me and my friend who I'm gonna call her Celia for this because that's what I used to call her as a code name when we were kids. But what I know originally with me and Celia when we watched this when we were like 19, 20, like oh gosh, it was like 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. Um, that was like the biggest draw for us was Chat Noir. uh, I know, surprise, surprise, right? Chat Noir was a big draw for us, but at the same time, the love square was because we thought it was like a really cool concept to have them in love with each other, but them not know it. Now, obviously, it's run its course. It's not interesting anymore. And like
yeah,
you said, if they're gonna have a romance, they do need to progress it. I will give you
yeah.
that.
That's
They definitely do.
that's kind of the point. The point I'm kind of saying is like, is Ashtra structure like was going for the
Well,
structure of
I will say
the
this
task of
also because I do know this for season 5. At least I'm assuming because I've seen a lot of rumors and people claiming it to be confirmed and whatnot. But that is Adrianette. Adrian and Marinette are confirmed for season 5.
Oh dear lord.
I don't like that. I genuinely don't like it. I don't. I I will say this: unless they're gonna do some heavy retcon punching, like comics, I'm going to keep the history and just be like, nah, this is not okay.
I mean honestly, if anything would have been confirmed, I would have preferred Lady Noir from a writing standpoint personally, because at this stage, I know Marinette has gotten better as a person, but we still kind of see her relapse a little bit when it comes to Adrian and the obsession that she has. I think that's the biggest thing that bothers me the most is that she needs to realize it's not actually love, but the fact that it's just an obsession with a boy that was mildly nice to her and just good looking, basically. That's about all it is. And there's like a few other things regarding that just little nitpicky things from a writing standpoint. You're gonna get that a lot from a writing standpoint. You're gonna hear a lot of issues I have because again, I claim to be a professional writer. I've done all
Well,
my classes and everything, but
it's like you've said, there are characters who have better dynamics with each other than those two do.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. Well, because my biggest thing is they don't really capitalize on what they need to establish. So like I said, it works as a show when it's very like the episodic villain of the week. You have that cheeky back and forth banter between Ladybug and Cat Noir, which I genuinely like, and I think season one was the best for this banter because yes, Shat did um flirt with Ladybug quite frequently, but it had a certain something to it where it's not like the later seasons where it feels a little more aggressive, but it's the you guys should know it's like playful, like teasing
Yeah,
almost. Like it's not serious. It's like the
Mm.
silly pet names or the like the cheeky comments like season like I said, Stormy Weather for example. When they're watching one of the TVs and Stormy's just like summer vacation is officially canceled. And then Shat just makes the cheeky little comment. He's like, already? But I look so good in my bathing suit. And then he does the little like eyebrow wiggle thing. And Ladybug's just like the cat suit works just fine there. Like stuff like that.
yeah.
It's still flirting ish, but it's light. It's not aggressive.
It's digestible.
It is digestible. Like
Yeah.
there are those moments where he does come off a little aggressive, like Bubbler whenever they are trapped in a bubble together, and she makes the comment of "We can't stay in this bubble together forever," and he just kind of like does that thing where he kind of like grabs his chin, he has that smile, and he's like, "Hey, I have no problem with that." I'm like, okay, that's a little more aggressive there, but other times it's not so bad. But
Honestly, I kind of
Worst.
yeah,
go ahead, Ruthless.
I kind of thought season one Cat Noir kind of weird, but at the same time more like
But it
yeah, I
worked.
kind of like it works because and also I kind of see it as like kind of unique of like and it makes more sense looking at that with how he hides his identity because like
Because Ladybug
I think
doesn't need a mask to be herself. The only difference between Ladybug and Marinette is that she's not as clumsy, essentially. Basically has her game face on.
yeah,
Whereas you can see the difference between Adrian and Chat Noir.
that's why I kind of like I kind of like his character way more because it makes more sense. Like now, I'm gonna make this analogy, and I think the trope is done well with like he's kind of like has this Superman syndrome of like I look almost exactly the same as my hero disguise, but I act so differently that am I Cat Noir or am I not?
Well, I can also say in Chat's case, where it varies with Marinette, like, you can see, of course, that it is Adrian, but the fact that with the mask, it's like cat eyes, it's green all the way through.
Yeah,
And that we even see that when Ladybug or well, Marinette gets a hold of the cat ring and she turns into Lady Noir, that's something it just happens with its holder. So you can also make that argument that it's still hiding him even more because you wouldn't even know if his eyes were green or not because it's the cat Miraculous. Its eyes is green and it's
yeah,
coming through on its holder. Um, but again, like the voices, the fucking
yeah,
voices. That's what
and also
bothers me.
the hair, yeah, the voice act like the voices can definitely be bothersome. Think about it now.
Well, I don't mind it so much, but like you can tell it's them with the voices, and I'm just like, why? I mean, like from episode 2, I knew Hawkmoth was Gabriel just from the voice. Like,
Wow, you revealed a huge spoiler.
I know, right? How
Oh
dare
my
I?
god, how awful. I haven't
How
even watched the show. I
awful.
have no reason now, Lotus. How dare you?
Yeah,
I
no.
never
The moment that I
knew.
actually saw Adrian's dad in episode 2, which is technically Bubbler from what I remember, I'm just like, Hawkmoth. Right there. That's it. That's Hawkmoth. Just like the voices are the exact same thing. And of course, once Origins came by, I'm like, yep, Yep. It's Hawkmoth. It's Gabriel. It's the same person. But no, yeah,
Honestly,
yeah. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna really say anything. At least I didn't know what I was gonna say. Go ahead.
Honestly, I gotta just say, I kind of was kind of disappointed because I thought they were for when I saw the Butler episode, I was like, okay, please do the alley oop on me because you just blatantly revealed the villain to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
mean,
no, they didn't.
but again, it's like a little kids show. It's going to be obvious and all that shit. But no, yeah.
It's,
But
and let's be honest here, most little kids probably didn't figure it out right away anyway.
yeah, like the more like the preteens obviously will kind of figure it out because they have more cognition and things like that. They have more thinking power than little kids do. Um, and obviously when I say little kids, I mean like between like the ages of like probably like 5 to 8, maybe 9. It just kind of depends how like because I know Kitty's girls like one of them I think just turned 11, but even as a 10-year-old, that little kid was smart. Like holy fuck, she caught on to concepts far greater than her sister did, and her sister's at least a year older than her. So it just depends on the kid, really. But
Yeah.
no, yeah. So going back to like the characters, well, Hawkmoth has his issues, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about Marinette Ladybug and how she's the golden girl, the Girl Scout. Nothing can go wrong for her. Everything is perfect.
I need to take a shower after hearing that.
You're welcome.
You could curl up in a fetal position and cry.
But you can't deny that's essentially what she became in like season 2 and
Yeah.
3. Like again, in season 1 there was still something of a balance. Obviously like not quite a balance cuz Shat was always kind of like sacrificing himself for Ladybug, but you can always also chalk that up to him like being so in love with her that he's willing to sacrifice his own life kind of thing, which is very toxic, and relationships don't ever do that. That's a very toxic relationship. That's not the type of
Yeah.
relationship you want. That's not a partnership. That's just toxic. Don't Romeo and Juliet it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Like
really.
it's cute for media, but it's not good for real life. I will say that right now. It seems idealistic of what someone might want. However, it's not. It really isn't.
Not healthy.
It's not healthy at all. And I will admit that I had those moments where I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, he sacrificed himself for her." Like I had those moments myself, and to be fair, at least in the first season, Ladybug does show um compassion for his sacrifices and willing to stand up for him as well. When he does do that kind of stuff, like in Time Tagger, whenever he does get in the way where Time Tagger would have touched her and took that like sacrifice, I appreciate that one. That one made sense because they need the Ladybug to capture the Akuma, and she did protect him from Time Tagger taking his ring. So like that I can appreciate, but eventually it's just like, can something happen to Ladybug and not everything happen to Cat? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course, then they start really shafting Cat in like seasons 2 and 3, where he doesn't get let in on anything, and he has to basically sit and wait like a good little boy. And then season 4, I understand that Ladybug is the guardian and she's got a lot more on her plate, but like, come on, bitch, it's not that hard to juggle those kind of things.
Is it a hot take to say that the show might have been better if it had followed Cat instead of Ladybug?
Okay, so you're not the only one to say that. Actually, a lot of people have said that, and
I agree.
I'm gonna wrap up the Ladybug thing because there's not really a whole lot to say about her other than she's a stalker, she's obsessive, she's a dimwit. I'm gonna say that
And
now.
creepy. Creepy as fuck.
Because even like Kitty was quick to point out how, and I'm gonna use the examples from my AU versus the show, is that she said that the big difference that she noticed right off the bat between my Marinette and the show's Marinette is brain. how the Ladybug in the show wasn't very smart versus the one that I had that was a little more competent and basically just grounded. More grounded in reality, I guess you could say. Well, as grounded as you can be for being a dreamer personality, so you know those types. Those types are fun. But eh, not to mention she doesn't really get punished for her behaviors until season 4. And even then, like, she takes extremist uh routes too, but so does Cat. But with Cat, it's a little more justified, I'd say. Not, it is. It's, I'd say, justified, but it doesn't really, like, obviously, like, the ends, the means don't justify the ends and whatnot, or the ends doesn't justify the means, whatever the case may be. But no, yeah, Ladybug was not the best choice. But it's funny you say that, Skull, because people have made that known to Astruc. And Astruc is very quick to get defensive, saying, "What's wrong with a girl protagonist, like a superheroine protagonist?" And there's nothing wrong, except the fact that Ladybug is boring. And that's the biggest fault of it. Um, I like Ladybug in small doses, but I don't like a lot of her civilian stuff. I like her when she's Ladybug. That's the only time I like her. But when she is Marinette and going about her normal life, it's very boring to me, and I usually end up skipping those parts. I've actually had to force myself to watch those parts so I had a good idea of what was going on in season 4. But it was very hard for me to actually sit through Marinette's civilian stuff because I'm just like, I don't like this at all. I really don't. Like, it's gotten boring. Like, before it was mildly entertaining, but now I'm just like, I can't. I just can't. Um, but no, yeah, like, you're not the first to say that. People have made it very well known to Astruct, and there's been a lot of people who shared that opinion as well. Even I technically share that opinion too, because Adrian is a lot more interesting than Marinette in terms of backstory. Because you have Marinette, who basically comes from this perfect house, like a mother and a father that loves her, a successful enough shop where they're not struggling to make ends meet. She's got good friends, good school and everything. Like, she basically has life going for her. Versus Chat Noir Adrian, who is literally trapped. Well, so this is where the show gets a little muddy. Because Adrian is supposed to be like this rich boy trapped in his home because his father doesn't want him out in the world. But he still manages to get out and is let out to explore the world, essentially. I'm just like, I don't understand. So you let him out, but then you don't want him to have friends, and then you use that, like, it's very weird with how Gabriel's written, and I feel like they try to do one thing, but then they switch to a different thing, while trying to also, like, still do the first thing. So that was like the first issue with.
It's like make up your mind type of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot like the whole Luca age thing, where he was supposed to be 2 years older than Julica, but then Asterix changed his mind and wanted them to be twins, which, okay. um, but, no, yeah, like, Adrian is a lot more interesting, but he's also a little whiny. Just a hair. But at the same time, we don't get enough of him either, compared to Ladybug, so, like, you can digest him a lot better.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, the writing for his character gets butchered. Because, again, I know I mentioned it with season 1 how his flirting wasn't too bad towards Ladybug. Um, it is quite digestible. Obviously, there was those aggressive moments that he had in season 1, but overall, it wasn't too bad. But season 2 and 3 is when it got a little worse, and you could start seeing where the fandom's just like, if she says no, then he should stop. And I'm like, well, some of the things that he's saying, I can see it. And then the whole, he has to sit on the sidelines and basically play the sidekick while Marinette Ladybug gets to know everything that's going on while he doesn't, when he's supposed to be her partner, but he's treated more like a sidekick.
Yeah.
And like even in
Yes.
season 1, he had moments of being treated like a sidekick, but he was still a partner at least. Kind of ish. But and then season 3, oh my gosh. Season 3 was bad. He was really treated. And then season 4 comes around. And I don't like what they did with the cat in season 4. I will be the first one to admit that.
Boy.
I don't know how much of season 4 you've seen Ruthless, but basically it's mostly following Marinette as she's adjusting to being the guardian of the Miracle Box now, since Master Fu gave up that responsibility to Ladybug to protect the Kwamis, essentially, at the end of season 3, which, okay, fair. But when it comes to Cat Noir, he's basically put on the sidelines again. He's supposed to be going through this arc where he's not really given the attention or respect from Ladybug that he kind of deserves at this point. I'm not gonna lie, because he's been with her since the beginning. He was the first like hero on her side and everything, but he's kind of pushed to the side and supposed to be going through this whole underappreciated arc.
I'm very, very, very fucking pissed hearing that.
Yes. And I know you saw
I,
this episode, Kira Neko.
yeah.
And it's called, to give you some context on this. This is probably like it's fine for what it is. However, it's got a really bad message.
Kirineko, that's the one where we get the white version of Shad,
That's
right?
Shot Blanc. That's season 3.
Uh, uh,
Kira
you told me
Neko.
about the episodes. I just confused and small brain.
No, you're good. Kira Neko is basically like it's supposed to be the climax of Shot feeling underappreciated, where he tries to go help Ladybug, but he's not really reading the room, which fair. And she basically tells him, if you want to help me, stay out of my way. And he yells, "Fine, when you come back from my Miraculous 2 when you're done." And she doesn't realize what he meant by that until it was too late. And when she went back to try and stop him, his Miraculous was kind of just sitting there, which obviously was a little irresponsible on his part, because you can't just leave that kind of Miraculous laying around. It's the black cat. It's the destruction. I mean, that's, oh boy. But and basically,
Yeah, some of our own hands.
basically, yeah.
Mm.
And you see, they don't really address the actual problem. Is what I had an issue with. So Plague was going on about how Adrian, like, well, Cat Noir was obviously in love with Ladybug, and it like how she wasn't really like returning his feelings, and how that wasn't fully the problem, but the fact that she wasn't really appreciating him as a partner and treating him like a sidekick, just another member of the team. Which, since they're supposed to be like the black cat and the ladybug, they're needed to balance each other out. It feels like they should always be working together, but they haven't. And I'm just like, so they don't need each other to balance each other out? It's like, what's the point then? Just to like,
Yeah.
you know, it's. And so Ladybug's going on this whole thing where she's trying to find a new Cat Noir because she doesn't want to give it to the old one because she can't work with someone who's in love with her. And while also trying to figure out how to give it to a new holder without knowing their name and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's probably the big thing that bothers me the most when it comes to the show. Which we'll get into that in one moment because that's a whole nother tangent in of itself, right, Ruthless?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That trailer is so painful.
it is. But basically, Plague does convince Ladybug to let him choose the cat holder, which he takes it back to Adrian. But then he changes Adrian into the ideal man that Marinette or Ladybug would love. And you know what the saddest thing about this that actually kind of breaks my heart is that her ideal man is the mask that he wears for his father.
Oh, that is so painful.
It's very painful because you see it how he acts like himself when he's Cat Noir, but when Plague is turning him into the perfect man for Ladybug, it's basically him when he has to like put on his act for the father. Very calm, polite, well mannered, and things like that. And it kind of broke my heart to see that. And I think that was kind of their intention, like trying to be like, hey, this would never work. But I'm just like,
I really,
that's not nice.
I'm
yeah.
gonna cry.
Honestly, that's why I kind of would say, like, I'd much rather have Marinette, like, much rather not have this ship happen because of that. It jogged my memory.
You're
That is
welcome.
so painful.
No, yeah, and then it gets worse because like it's trying to hammer home the point that you can't work with someone that you love, which I find utter bullshit because you can. It's
Yeah.
just they're adding drama into it. Like you can easily work with people that you love and not have drama.
Yeah.
That's why when you say like don't do office romances, I'm like, as long as you don't make it weird, you can make it work. And I've seen it work, so I know it works. Um, but they really hammer home how like Ladybug is so in love with this new cat noir, this cat walker, who is basically her ideal man, which is basically just Adrian as Adrian, not Adrian as cat noir, which is what makes me sad. And I find this utter bullshit because again, we've seen Cat is in love with Ladybug the entire time, but he's still able to work with her. Sure, he flirts with her, but like, it doesn't mean he always lets it get in the way of the job. Sometimes it does. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it does, but not a lot, and not in the way in which Ladybug was messing up in Kirineko. Like she's just like, oh, he's perfect, and then she's like, oh no, I can't keep him because he's too perfect. I'm like, I hate everything about you. It's probably like the one episode I don't like because it really felt like he had to change just to be ideal for her. And that's not healthy. Not in the slightest. That is
No.
very, very toxic. You should
You should never have
never,
to.
yes, you
Yeah.
should never have to change for someone else. See, you can be inspired to be better than you were before, but you should never have to completely change yourself just to make someone else happy.
Yeah.
And it is a hard lesson to learn, but it is a very important lesson and one that will help out in the long run. And I
Yeah.
kind of have to agree with this one YouTuber, Alex Myers, how there is some very bad messages in this show
It
that
really does.
like it kind of makes me a little sick that this is made for little kids because as they grow older and they can start seeing these messages, they could be already implanted in them. Like
I
just
mean,
Kuroneko is bad as it is.
I mean, at the same time, though, when it comes to shows being translated and stuff, certain things could be lost and
That's
messages could be
true.
slightly different.
Mm.
But I'm speaking this as like I know it's like a French show, but in terms of like America and the way that we digest it mainly but through the dub for a good portion of us. I'm sure there's some people that digest it through the sub, but a lot of what I've seen has been through the dub. A lot of other people I know have seen it through the dub, so we are exposed to the English version of it, and that's the one I'm talking about. So I
I'm almost
can't.
tempted to watch the French, like the original French version,
It probably might
just
be
to
a little
see if it's
more.
different.
Yeah, I would say it'd probably be a little more digestible in that case.
Yeah.
I can't say how much more, but that would probably be up for you to decide on that one.
I mean, at the same time, it's also definitely like 100% not because I'm curious about how the French voices sound or anything.
You know, if I can find it, I'll send. So, Miraculous did like a little musical episode. It was their French, their not French special, their Christmas special. And I'm gonna say this right now: Adrian's English voice actor cannot sing, but the French voice actor for Adrian, beautiful, absolutely fucking beautiful. I like it so much more.
You've piqued my curiosity,
I
Lotus.
will find the clip for you, Skull, and I will send it to you in a little bit.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
but I actually have it in my liked videos because I just love it. I just love it, especially like the line towards the end because Kat is feeling bitter about Christmas because he doesn't get to spend Christmas with his father anymore ever since his mother died. So he obviously has that resentment building. So he turns into Cat Noir and he goes running through the city, kind of singing about how he's a lonely cat in the night and how he just wants some attention, basically.
Oh, oh,
And then he sees,
that
wait, it gets better. Then he sees like the big tree, all decorated and everything. And he's like, I'll burn your tree to ashes. I'm the vengeful cat in the night. And I'm
Ooh.
just it's just the French version. It's just chef's kiss. It's beautiful. Ooh, I will find it and I will send it to you because it's great. It is fucking great. But
Definitely piqued my curiosity now,
so it's
Lotus.
probably if you probably like it more in the French for you, Skull. If I had the patience to sit through the French sub, I just might. But I don't know. We'll see. Um, but no, yeah, like Adrian has a lot more potential than Ladybug or Marinette. And that's definitely where I see the show failing the most is in terms of its main leads. It gives Ladybug all the attention while it pretty much tosses Cat to the side and treats him more like a nuisance or a burden, a
Eh,
sidekick than an actual partner.
ugh.
And not to mention some of the other
Wait.
characters. Chloe with her damnation arc,
Oh,
not a
I
redemption
fucking
arc.
hate Chloe.
The whiny spoiled rich girl, right? Who has
Fucking hate
the one with mommy issues.
Chloe.
You know, it's pretty sad. Like, she was only interesting when they were actually exploring her trauma. But then they got rid of all that. And I'm just like, okay. Oh, well. And I think that's what kind of gets me is like, a lot of people will say, like, how can you defend Chloe and not Lila? The big difference is Chloe had that emotional baggage and time to develop. And we got to see that in season two. And quite honestly, it was actually really tragic seeing it. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I saw Chloe's backstory and like how her mother was like pretty much abandoned her and how she's been trying to get her mother's approval all her life, I'm like, okay, I feel that. But Lila, we don't get that kind of thing. It's just she's just there and she's mean and she has some parent issues, but it's like, okay.
Do we ever see it?
You see that her mom is never really there and always busy, but like, oh well,
That's it?
that's it. We don't see her father, but I'm just like, that all? All right.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. That's not
It's not the
isn't
same.
inexcusable.
the
Yeah.
isn't the oh yeah.
It was
I'm
a
thinking of
yeah, no, Lila was initially introduced as Volpina as
ah
claiming to have the Fox Miraculous when she didn't. She was just lying to get people's attention, essentially. A compulsive liar is what Lila is. Um I mean, Lila, I don't really care much for because she's just basically the same thing as Chloe is at this point. She's just a villain. Um, she's basically inoffensive. I'm not gonna lie. Like the lying is annoying, but she just exists for the most part. It's good. A lot of
Basically, there.
yeah, like a lot of the characters are just there and they're like inoffensive, and it's fine. Like Aldia can be a little pushy, but I enjoy her enough. Nino, I actually tend to enjoy Nino. Like he's very grounded, calm. I actually enjoy Nino. Uh, Julika's really pretty. I will admit that. She's a really pretty girl. I love the hair. Julika's hair is beautiful, and the purple and the like purple and black are just such a good color combo. It's dark and mysterious, and I love it. But the shy personality does get a bit of annoying because I know in earlier seasons you can still kind of like make out what she was saying through the like mumbling. She was just kind of like speaking softly. But in like season 4, you can't understand a damn word she's saying. It's just gibberish. And I'm like, what'd you say? Why are we doing this? Like, why did we change this? Which I know why, because they can give her the Tiger Miraculous to make her find her inner voice. And I roll my eyes.
I shake my head.
I do too. Um, and I think I would need to mention the other love interests. You should know
Oh
these ones,
dear
right, Skull?
lord. Yeah.
Kagami
Yeah,
and
I do.
Luca.
Yeah.
So, Ruthless, I know you say you do not like the Adrianette. I can tell you, Celia does not like Adrianette either. She went into the show supporting Adrianette until Luca came along, and Luca stole her heart. And now
Yeah,
she's
I
Lucanette
will.
for life.
Yeah. I think Luca and watching the show and just seeing, I see more the bromance work way better.
Oh my gosh, I do too. I mean, that's why I ship Luca and Adrian personally, because I think it's just a much better thing. Just like how I ship Marinette and Kagami. Yes, Skull.
Oh, nothing.
And I'm actually gonna mention what you think of Luca and Kagami, Ruthless, because I know a lot of the fandom think they're boring, and there's not a lot to them, and how they're just kind of there to be opposites of obviously Adrian and Marinette, which they're not wrong. They are meant to be foils for a reason. But the problem is that I see is that they created characters that had far better chemistry with the
Yeah.
main leads than the main leads actually have.
My
uh,
biggest problem with another big problem with the show is like it's not trying to break a mold. Like it's trying to stay within the mold.
well, I mean,
Boy.
considering when it came out, it's expected. And I mean, when it comes to TV, let's be honest, people don't really want big surprises much. At least at the time they didn't. Obviously, like people want that subversion now more than they did probably back in like the mid 2010s when it initially came out. So, I see this more as a show trying to adapt to a different time now versus what it was when it initially came out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of don't know because I don't even remember 2015.
Yeah, I know, I feel that. But I mean, it was definitely a different time when it came to um what we see on TV. Like we definitely don't see
Yeah.
we didn't see a lot of what we have now. A lot of open like I mean, we could you ever imagine something like Encanto or Turning Red in 2015?
No, not at all.
Exactly. So like
No.
you'd definitely see something more obviously like Miraculous. Miraculous was something that was definitely like a product of its age. It came out in the mid 2010s like and it shows. And that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. Sometimes things don't age well, but they're good for
Yeah,
when
like
they.
Very Odd Parents.
Okay, look, some episodes of that are still funny. Okay, like the
Yeah.
early seasons are still good. Some of them, some episodes are still good. But, like it has its moments.
Let's just treat Butch Hartman like Bruno right now and not talk about him.
we
Oh,
we
I'm avoiding him. I
that's
could
fair.
go on a rant on how much I don't like him.
But
I think a
the
lot of people find Ruthless.
yeah, a lot of people are like that now, Ruthless. But no, like Mirax is definitely just trying to fit a new mold at this point, while trying to break free from the old mold. Because remember, the old mold was the episodic villain of the week thing. Now there's plot. Now there's lore and development in quotes, and things like that. Like they're trying,
Excuse me.
but the execution isn't the best. Is my problem.
Well, okay, this kind of goes back to like one of the fundamental problems. That's like it's kind of a fundamental problem that I kind of see personally as like a viewer. And this is just me going off a tweet and just going off of what I've seen from the creator itself. And this is just me just reading into it.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're trying to have a plot changes the status quo. You have to progress it. If you're not having any movement, what's the point with the plot?
Well, so here's
That's
the thing.
why.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to change the status quo. Like, here's my thing when it comes to writing, and this is coming from the writing standpoint, obviously. Um, before you get into an actual project, you should have a basic outline idea of where you want it to go. It is fine to make changes along the way, and that is going to happen. But you also need to consider the changes you're going to make. Now, I don't know what if they planned on adding plot in later down the line. I know that when they were initially given like the outline for what the show had to be, they couldn't really have any plot. Like it had to be episodic, it had to be villain of the week, and it could be reran in any order and things like that, which it shows for seasons 1 and 2. Season 3 is when we get more of the lore and when we can't air it out of order, essentially. Same with season 4, which I find that just great because Thomas Astruct had a meltdown once about airing an episode out of order for season 4 when they did that for basically the first 3 seasons. It was great. But yeah, so it's like I feel like with the shift, because they tried to do something different, obviously, but it just didn't quite work, is the problem. Like, it didn't work with the characters, it didn't work with the story too much, personally. Like, at least in my opinion, because season 1 works for what it is. Season 2 is not the greatest, but it's okay. Season 3 is probably the worst, in my opinion. And season 4 is where they actually get on track for having a story.
Yeah, I can see that.
But my biggest problem is the elements of the story and the execution of ideas. And I think the biggest elephant in the room that we need to mention is we can't see past the eyes. Who are you?
Yeah.
So
I think
like the whole magic, I get it. It's a magic girl show. Okay, I get that. But it's so
but Sailor Moon was
frustrating.
good. Like Sailor Moon is not bad. Like I could easily watch Sailor Moon and I could enjoy it. This show is just painful to watch.
It's I just think it just bothers me because like I haven't seen Sailor Moon, so I can't really say. But I don't know. I feel like other Magic Girl shows did it better. and and I get it. It's also like a superhero trope because again, the Superman Clark Kent kind of thing, where it's like, let me just remove my shirt and pants and take off my glasses, and I'm Superman. I put them back
To be
on, and
fair,
you won't know.
I'm gonna be very generous for the Superman fans. And I sometimes have this problem when the comics does not portray it clearly, but in like the comics, they would normally try to do so. There is a kind of explanation, decent explanation is like with so there's two versions. The first version is superpowers that disguise them, and it makes someone else see something else
Well,
than
see,
just
okay, that's
Superman.
also what they use as well as an explanation that the Miraculouses can hide their users' identities.
Yeah.
The silence is great. That followed that.
That is
I'm
like
sorry,
the
I'm trying
one.
not to bang my head into my desk repeatedly right now.
Well, okay, so
That is like one reason that one thing that is like somewhat I'm like kind of find it annoying, but the other one I find a little bit more interesting, but still questioning. I still question it. Still, is the him like Clark who acting like him having to act more totally different from Superman itself of like a dork.
I say that I can understand because like at least there's enough of a difference. Like so, as someone who gets confused and you might hate me for this, but I find a lot of men look the same. So I get confused a lot of the time. Um, so I can at least stand on that point. um,
Yeah, I mean, your statement's not wrong.
Okay, good. 'Cause, like, no, I have always wondered why I have such issue with like when it comes to the art designs of men. I'm just like, why do they all look the same? It's like, oh, because they're all the same in real life. But no, it's like at least in that regard, I can at
Yes,
least
I agree.
say like I can kind of get it where like a lot of people do tend to look the same, but in the show, like Adrian and Marinette have such unique silhouettes compared to everyone else
Mm-hmm.
that it makes it so hard to ignore. Like it's hard for me to suspend my belief that they can't tell it's each other just because of how unique their silhouettes are. Because they're supposed to stand out, and that's the problem. Like if they were a little more ordinary, it'd be a little bit easier. But it's just it stands out too much. And like it and the whole
I
okay,
have a
so go ahead still.
I have a theory.
Go
I'm
ahead.
pretty sure their miraculouses make them blind. That's the only reason why they can't tell.
It's got to
Yeah.
be something, right? I mean, it's pretty much the same thing like the first theory, the first reason that you said why Superman's thing like they never figure out it's him because like his superpowers hide him. They I think they've said like the miraculous have the capability of masking their holders like voices and shit like that. But I'm just like
Yeah.
I know they can change a lot more than just the clothes because we've seen Rena Rouge turn into Rena Furtive. I hope I said that right. So like all her hair and her outfit completely changed into something that wasn't fox like. Mayura, for even an example, like her skin turns blue, her hair turns like a purple, or it's more purple. I can't tell. It's yeah, it's a little, it's an in between. It's like a purplish blue. It's a blue violet. Like
Yeah.
we
It's
see
a
that
color.
it's a color. Thank you. But like we see it's they're capable of doing more than just hiding than just giving them like a superhero outfit basically. A skin
Oh,
tight one on top of that. But like you know.
Grant. Grant, I am kind of using the superpower one because if someone was like, meh, like I've tried to be very like I'm somewhat being generous for like the acting part. I find it way more doable than the powers because I think the powers are just more of a shitty cop out.
No, it definitely is. Um we'll get to powers here in a little bit because that's that's a little whack. Um
Oh, don't get me started on
I'm
that.
going to get you started, but I want to hear both of your opinions on this. Ruthless, I know you have probably a strong opinion on it, but what are your thoughts on, from a writing perspective and a story perspective, they can't tell anyone else about their identities because of how dangerous the cat and the Ladybug Miraculous will be if they are combined, and if Hawkmoth should find them.
Ugh, it's stupid and tropey.
This is my feeling towards that
Like,
trope.
why can't they tell each other? I mean, it's not like if they have the power or whatever and they like know the dangers, why is it such a big deal if they already know they can't say anything to anybody else?
That
Like, how many times have they gotten close to like almost revealing each other each
well,
other
if we want to include
like
the
accidentally?
well, let's see. There's a scene where they are trapped in like I don't know what it was, but they closed their eyes and detransformed and faked giving up their miraculous. There was Chat Blanc, which was a whole what if episode because Marinette fucked up the timelines without meaning to, and they basically erased the other timeline. But Marinette remembers Chat Blanc, which time travel's weird. And there's Ephemeral. Ephemeral pissed me off when I first watched it. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had no idea Ephemeral was supposed to be a what if episode. So I went into it, and when Chat Noir revealed he was Adrian to Ladybug, and they didn't rewind time, I'm just like, we're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're absolutely doing this. And no, and actually, that's where it gets even more pissed off for me because from a writing standpoint, they wrote themselves into a corner. Now, I want to ask you too before I explain it. What do you think happens when the cat and the Bug Miraculous come together, what do you think happens with the wish? I want to know. What's
My
your best?
memory
No,
of
not
Dog.
memory. Best guess. What do
Oh,
you
yeah.
think happens?
All hell is going to break loose.
Ruthless?
I
What?
wish to. I think if it's hot, it depends on who got it.
No, basically,
Got
like, what do you think the effects are? Like, if you were to make a wish, what do you think would happen when you make that wish? So
I
Skull says all hell would break loose. What do you say?
I wouldn't be surprised if part of like if you're trying to do like a story. I can see if you're trying to have like great power with comes with great consequences as a theme. I would say something part of time or some type of part of time gets erased, or something in the reality just completely fucks up.
So, you're both actually right, technically. So what happens is, in Ephemeral, in the What If episode, which again, it still pisses me off. So Ladybug later reveals that she's Marinette to Adrian, and then they start dating. In it, and it's towards the end. It's towards the end, so we get the. I know it's fine.
Yeah.
And what kills me the most is when Adrian's on the phone talking to Marinette, he calls her Milady, and Gabriel's just like, oh, my son's Cat Noir. I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to know that he's Cat Noir just because he calls a girl Milady?
Not like the formal, like, proper gentleman bullshit or whatever.
Right, it's like, are you not raising your son to be a gentleman? Like, what the fuck is going on? So no, yeah, he realizes that, and then he does the whole thing where he calls his son into the basement, basically he shows Emily in the frozen coffin, in the glass coffin, basically in a coma, basically dead, and turns his son into Ephemeral. Uses his son to get Ladybug's Miraculous after taking the cat ring from, his son. Uh, and Ladybug quickly gets a picture of a time to Luca, who goes to her room, to the miracle box, to the Snake Miraculous. And as he's talking to the Snake Miraculous, the world is literally ending. And the explanation, wait for it, Ruth, this is where yours come in, that everything is written in, let's say, like a red ink. And if you wanted to change that, you had to erase all of it and then rewrite it in a different ink.
Oh, this is giving me so much pain.
So basically, you make a wish, you end the world.
It's just okay. I got to say, Astra, why? Just let the fucking wife be alive, and then have everyone face the consequences. Again, this is kind of now getting to the fundamental problem with the show, that they're like that I just keep on seeing, like,
It's just
it's a
taken to an
reoccurring.
extreme, basically.
Yeah.
And like they're trying so hard to like make it seem like this is a bad thing, but like there are many ways to make it like a bad thing. Cause like my initial thought with the wish was that, so I like this the most because like the initial concept I learned this from was Final Fantasy 13 2, when Caius had confronted Sarah, talking about how she was a child of miracles, but with each miracle that she granted or like brought upon herself, she took something away from someone else. Basically, and to sum it up, it was a long monologue essentially, but that's basically sums up what he told her. And that's kind of like stuck with my, like, a theme in my writing is like if there's going to be something big, there's going to be a big consequence to come with it. And even as I do my own rewrite for Miraculous, the big wish that can come when the cat and the bug miraculouses are on the same holder, essentially, is that, say, like, if you wanted Emily to come back, someone would have to die to bring Emily back. And it couldn't just be anyone. It had to be someone of equal value. Which means, if he wanted his wife back, his son would have to die. Essentially.
Yeah.
That is a better writing, because it's like, who do you want more in your life? Do you want your wife, or do you want your son? Who do you love most to sacrifice?
Or if you really want to be a Thanos moment,
Oh, dear Lord.
and I'm just this is a
I
little
think they
bit of
pulled
jokes,
off the
but I just
Thanos thing in the actual show itself.
yeah, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they also do like the whole like. Actually, this kind of would somewhat really fuck with the status quo to the point where, wait, now I'm having 1,000 more questions of like the whole New York heroes. Like, is those here what like how they did not hear about the whole? Oh yeah, the reality about to fucking shatter in Paris because of someone in Paris did a wish.
I don't know. I really don't. Not in the slightest.
It's just how when like I remember they know like some of the shit that was going on in this show. Like what?
I really just, ugh. At that point, I'm flipping tables and walking out of the room because I'm fucking done with the show.
It's. I could definitely use some polishing. I'm not gonna lie. It's just very it's very frustrating in terms of writing, and obviously it's made for little kids because it's very almost cookie cutter, black and white kind of thing. Like you saw almost in season 2 where they tried to do like a moral gray for some things, like Chloe. Like Chloe could definitely have had either a damnation, which she had the damnation arc, but it could have also easily been a redemption arc, which is what a lot of fans did see. And to be fair, like technically she should have had one. Like I see what they were going for. They wanted to keep her as a villain, but like they had Lila, and Lila works fine as a villain. Probably works better as a villain in my opinion, because we always want to hope for the best in people, but I know at the same time people don't always change. But a 14-year-old girl is going to change. She's not going to stay the same forever. At least we can hope, I should say.
Wasn't their explanation for it really bad too?
Well, if you want the full story and context, Astruc designed Chloe after a bully he had when he was a kid, and he refuses to believe that a character that he made up, essentially, basically he made, was impossible of changing just because he modeled after a girl who had bullied him when he was younger.
Oh God, that's
Petty. I know.
piece of
Childish.
fucking shit.
Well, considering he wrote himself into the show and had an episode where he got akumatized because no one appreciated him.
That episode, I was in pain. Like that episode, I was like,
Why?
I physically was face palming, and I was in pain just watching the whole episode. A little bit from that.
It's kind of funny. In season 4, there's another episode he writes himself into, and it's one where like Chloe tries sabotaging the movie that they're making, and I'm actually kind of surprised that he didn't just have his character like deck her. I, I was expecting at some point while she was like demanding all these changes and shit like that, I was expecting his character to just like punch a bitch.
That would have been funny.
It would
Let's
have
be
been
honest.
funny. I'm not gonna lie, that really would have been funny. I'm just like, I'm waiting for it, but it never happened. And I'm like, you're such a bitch, boy.
I'm gonna definitely say though. I think it would be okay if you write yourself in. If you literally just make like a joke. Like I think there was like one screenwriter that he wrote himself in as part of the skit of the show.
I mean, that's one thing, but like, I don't know what Astric was thinking, but like, yeah,
Does anybody know?
no,
Does anybody want to know?
I certainly don't.
He's honestly the new Butch Harmon.
No one will ever be Butch Hartman. Like Butch Hartman's Butch Hartman.
No.
Actually,
Yeah.
he's more. I actually have to take that back. He's the new age version.
No, he's Ruthless. He's not. It's not quite the same. But Butch Hartman's in a class all his own compared to Asterix. The only difference is
Actually,
Hartman actually fooled people. Asterix not fooling anyone. At least not adults, I should say, not adults.
Yeah.
And I think to be fair, as much as little kids watch this show, a lot of adults watch it too. I mean, look at me. I started watching this when I was fucking like 19 or 20, and I'm still watching it. But like, it's also been 7 years. So like, yeah, it got me when I was younger. And I think,
all we got to say is God bless you
well,
with that.
like I said, because I found it first on YouTube because I found like a whole episode listing on YouTube. Like it was actually just uploaded on YouTube for free at first. Probably someone like who like obviously stole the thing. And I watched it all then. And I'm like, this is the weirdest fucking show I've ever seen. Let's continue. It was definitely one of those. And I showed it to Celia, and she was hooked too. She's like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched, but I loved it. I'm like, yeah, me too. So we've been kind of hooked on Miraculous ever since. And like I said, she used to be a big Adrianette shipper, and then Luca showed up, and Luca stole her heart. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, that boy. Okay, so how can I say this? You know, I've been doing the redesigns for the characters and their outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I recently got a hold of her and told her I was like doing this kind of thing, and you know what the first question she asked me?
Luca.
Yes, she's like, first question, an important question, is Luca in there? And I'm like, fucking hell, bitch. I mean, props to you, my girl, but and then I made the redesign for Luca's outfit for Viperian, and oh my gosh, she's like, if only he was real. I'm just like, Casey, or I see. Oh my gosh, that girl cracks me up. Then again, I feel the same way about Lightning, but like Lightning's at least in her 20s, so like Luca's supposed to be like 16 years old in the show. Supposedly, I don't know how old the boy's supposed to be. It's hard to say. They're very wishy washy with the ages. The only one I know for sure is that Adrian and Marinette are 14, with like a few month difference actually. Because I think Sven's been speculating on their birthdays and whatnot, but that's beside the point. But no, yeah. So Luke is an important one for her, and I mean, I don't blame her. Luke is actually a really nice character, despite what people say. I actually kind of find it funny that people are like, he's so boring, there's nothing to his character other than nice. And I'm like, you gotta look a little deeper, man. It's there, you just gotta look. But I will also say Luca does not, like, Marinette does not deserve Luca. Luca deserves so much better. He deserves Adrian,
Bro.
but she doesn't believe
Yeah.
me. Oh yeah, like, I know I mentioned this in the shipping episode, but it's so fucking sad that the rivals work so much better together. Like, Luca would be perfect for Adrian, and Kagami would be perfect for Marinette. Obviously, I
Yeah.
don't see them doing this, but holy fuck, it would be perfect. Absolutely perfect.
I mean, it would. I don't know. I know France is like a lot more liberal with certain things, but I don't know how they are with like LGBT matters.
I don't know
I
either.
am not.
I
I
know,
am not the France French. I am the Canada French.
which is very different.
Very different.
I mean, I
All the language
know
police.
he's like Thomas Astruct had confirmed that there had been some characters that were LGBT, but, and I put a big but here, they're side characters.
Yeah.
Which Rose is bisexual. I think he's confirmed that Julika. I don't know if Julika is like actual lesbian or bi, but I think he's confirmed that they're in like she's in a relationship with Rose. I believe. I could be wrong, but a lot of fans read into that anyway, so it's basically headcanon at this point, even if it's not canon. Max, I think, is asexual, and Alex is aromantic. But like, yeah, their main leads are straight.
Yay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be really cool if they did flip the script and have Adrian realize he's into guys and he likes Luca, and like Marinette realize she likes girls and stuff, or maybe even likes both for that matter. Like, I'll take either. Like, can we just have like an M/M or an F/F? Come on, please.
Yeah, I thought.
Give me something that's not Marinette and Adrian, please, for the love of
Yeah,
God.
Because like, I
I
get
think.
that they're the main ship, but there's so many problems. So many problems. Like, Kira Neko was a big thing on its own. Like, just knowing that episode alone is enough to realize it's a very toxic ship no matter which way it goes.
Yeah.
Because Marinette's a stalker. Adrian doesn't know how to like listen to no and how to back off. And like, it's gotten worse. And I understand in season 4 she got a little bit better, but like also not. So it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just so many problems.
I don't like this show.
I think oh, what was it? I think the best way someone described Marinette was like what was it? Oh my gosh, the type of anime girl, that's just fucking batshit shit crazy. Like was it Yandere?
Yonder.
That's yes.
Yandere?
So I've heard someone like describe Marinette as a Yandere. I'm like, I
Yeah.
see it. I totally see it.
That's why I kind of really hate the character. I honestly universally hate Yanders. I just straight up hate Yanders, flat
I
out.
can't say anything.
Gee, I wonder why.
The
That's great.
I don't have to explain myself.
No, you don't. Not to us, at least. The world might wonder one day, but that's up to you to share. Um, but no, yeah, like Marinette's definitely a yandere. I mean, she tries to sneak into his house. She refuses to let other girls near him, even if they may pose a threat. The threat being stealing his heart, and I'm just like, oh my fucking gosh.
Is it really a threat if you never had it in the first place, girl?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. It's like, yeah, it's never a threat if it wasn't yours in the first place. Oh my gosh. And my gosh. Yes,
Am I
perfect.
wrong?
You're not wrong. And I think that's great. It's like they never actually had anything with each other in the first place. So they can't really get upset when when their love's not returned, when they've made it clear to each other they're interested in different people, but they won't fucking talk. That's what pisses me off the most. Like, okay, I get it. Talking can be so difficult for people. I understand that. I have friends who have difficulty asking me things or just even reaching out to me. I have difficulty with that shit sometimes. But, like, it shouldn't be hard. Just have a casual fucking conversation with someone about that kind of shit. I mean, come on, if I have fucking coworkers that have no problem telling me about the good ass fucking sex that they have with their crazy exes, I'm pretty sure two fucking teenagers can tell each other who they like. Oh my
That's too
gosh.
simple, Lotus. Let's be honest.
No, it is too simple. Like, no. Like, I fucking work with other teenagers who are like, ooh, he's hot, or like, ooh, she's good looking, and I'm like, how can you just talk about this? And again, like the fucking frat boy who's like, oh yeah, the sex with this chick was great, but she was fucking nuts. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't care.
I don't need to know about your life in
No,
that
I
way.
don't. But thanks for sharing anyway. I mean, I appreciate it because like no one ever like just casually talks about that shit, and I'm just like, what? Wait, you have no problem talking about this? Like, are you seriously talking about this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Teenagers are usually pretty open about that stuff, like...
Right, and I think that's also what gets me too, is that the teenagers in this aren't really realistic, at least from an American standpoint. I don't know how French teenagers are, obviously, but
I don't
like
know.
from like an American standpoint, they're too well behaved for the most part. I'm just like, this is it? Oh boy.
Yeah.
We've got all sorts of characters over here.
That's actually no. No, I'm gonna avoid the tangent. I'm gonna avoid the tangent.
Fair enough. Just no Star
I'm,
Wars.
I was
Rule
avoiding
number one:
comic
no
books.
Star Wars.
Rule number one: no Star Wars. No Star Wars unless it's a Star Wars episode.
Yeah.
Or Disney, because it's technically Disney now. So.
But we're not do. I don't think we're doing a Disney 2.
Not yet, at least.
Election
We'll see.
well.
We'll see. It's up in the air right now. But no, yeah, like I can't really speak for the French teenagers, but in terms of like America, because obviously I'm digesting this as an American. Unlucky us, right? Ruthless.
I mean, even like from a Canadian standpoint, not.
Like yeah, it's just they're too well behaved. They keep secrets very well, and I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I feel like these girls should be gossiping to everyone and like each other all the time. And
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's just something about them. I'm just like, are they really this stupid? Because like I understand like teenagers can be very hormonal and emotional and can make irrational decisions. However, the way that Marinette's friend group kind of just encourages her behavior with Adrian, I'm just like,
Yeah. No.
like the only
Yeah.
sensible one is Alex. And I think it's mostly because she's aromantic and she just doesn't understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Like, why? How can she feel this? Like, why does she feel this way? Like, I can understand that a little bit, but at the same time, like, all the others are like, this is like the best idea ever. Like Rose, I can give a pass on because Rose is a romantic, and trying to talk those people down from a romantic situation is just, yeah. Like, so Rose, I can give a pass because romantics are annoying sometimes, especially when they're younger. Because oh my gosh,
Let's
it's
move on.
you don't
Yeah.
like that?
No, I don't.
This is great. I'm almost enjoying
That's
myself.
torture.
What can I say? This show
I
is
hate
torture.
teenage girls.
I
I
mean,
hate teenage girls with a passion.
me too. I didn't enjoy being a teenage girl either.
No.
And to be honest, the show doesn't really portray them right, at least from like a North American standpoint. Like mostly North America, like speaking Canada and America kind of thing. Obviously, we can't speak for other countries, but for our countries or restrictive countries, no, yeah, like the writing is just very much made for little kids.
Thinking about it, my aunt, my family friend, definitely would definitely say, and she has like kids now around my age because actually not. Let me remember. Nope, it would be around teen age, and she definitely would say, yeah, they're nightmares, and they definitely are the least behaved.
No, yeah, definitely. Because the moment, like, just even the moment, like, 14, 15 hits, you're already starting to hit that rebellion. Kind of.
Yeah.
I can say, like, someone like me and the household I grew up in, there was no rebellion. There was behave or punish kind of thing. So, I kind of was a late bloomer. I hit rebellion later. I hit it in my early 20s. But no, yeah, it's like the writing is not that great for the characters. But again, like taking it into what's words, perspective of it works kind of as a kids show. Obviously, some of the messages are bad.
Blood.
Again, Kira Neko being the prime example of that. It's just a heartbreaking episode when you actually look at the context of it. And I understand it's a kids show. Why are you looking so much deeper in it than what actually is there? And I'm like, writing is the big thing, because if you're gonna consume media, you're gonna consume all of it, and there's gonna be certain things you're looking for. So if like from a kids show perspective, it's fine. It's not like Steven Universe or even My Little Pony for that matter. It's not even on those levels. It's actually beneath it in my opinion. Like, it's definitely made for little kids. Like, kids like around Skull's sister's age, the 6-year-olds. Again, because, like, for kids that are, like, Kitty's age, like, Kitty's kids' age, the 11 and 12-year-old, like, they can't stand it. They absolutely cannot stand the show because of the concept of it. And I mean, I've seen people commenting on how, like, their little siblings around, like, the targeted age get so annoyed with it because of the whole, she has the same hair, or the same voice and everything, you should be able to tell it's them. And how, like, they don't actually really explain that they can't tell. It's just implied. And I'm like, not everyone's gonna pick up on that.
Yeah, like I know that it's like the superpowers shit is just a massive cop out. I'm like, but if they act totally different, like if they play a role and they act like if they're doing like the Superman thing, the second thing that I think is way more interesting.
Which
Is the
Adrian
whole
does. At least for
yeah
him.
that was what
It's
yeah
more Ladybug who doesn't act differently, so.
yeah
Which.
I think that is way more doable. I find that way more interesting of like having way more interesting for like a hero superhero.
I really do have to agree with that because I've always loved the idea, and well, not even just idea, but like very fact, because this is very true to even real life, that you give a person a mask, they'll reveal their true selves.
Yeah.
And I like that with Adrian because the mask that he, like, kind of like the mask that he has to wear his everyday life, isn't his real self. But when he's given the Chat Noir mask, he can be himself, and I appreciate that. Like that, I appreciated from the show. Like he was allowed to be himself, even if it wasn't really as Adrian, but it was as Cat, which was fun. But
That is some of a common. So well, I won't say common trope. It's a trope, but it's not super common.
well, to
But
be
yeah,
fair, like everything's a trope too at this point.
yeah.
But like, it's not a bad trope. Let's say that.
It's not a bad trope. It is not. It is not.
It's not
Like
like
even
the yandere that Marinette is, or the I can't see you past your eyes, the magic girl kind of thing. And
yeah.
just the toxic relationship of Adrian and Marinette.
Yeah.
I mean, Lady Noir works a little bit better. At least it did in the earlier seasons, like one and maybe two, but it doesn't work too well for season 3 and 4. But in terms of that, I have to mention the powers, like the power system in Miraculous, and like how
It is not.
the powers are just. I think you and I can both agree on that. Like the powers are not good.
Yeah, it's so boring because like every fucking fight has to either come with a oh yeah my special final finisher whoa you got surprised.
And not to mention, like every single fight, they have to use the Miraculous and Cataclysm, and like, do you have to though? Like I can think of
We
so
have
many.
to.
It's like yeah, like we have to. It's like, but I can think of so many different ways you could solve this without using those powers all the time. And like the whole damage reversal power too isn't exactly completely creation either. I actually think because I got this idea from someone else, was they were kind of like doing like character rewrites. I think it was like Calamara. I believe I said her name right. She's a YouTuber. Um, but she had the idea where like it should take both Ladybug and Cat Noir to fix the damage in Paris, and not just Ladybug. Because in the show, it's implied that her Ladybugs break down stuff too, which isn't a power of creation; it's a power of destruction. So they basically give Marinette the power of creation and destruction without actually meaning to.
Yeah, that makes like there's so many gaping like
Or
I
like even
think
how
that
the Lucky Charm is. So like I think that's what also bothers me too, is that so when I think creation, I think order. And when I think destruction, it's chaos and order. Like destruction and
Lotus,
chaos.
I just had a realization.
What's that?
Drinking game based off of shitty writing. Every time we see a shitty writing trope in Miraculous, take a shot.
You guys can do that. I'm not going to. My poor heart would just give out at that moment. The moment I downed one thing, my heart be like, nope, 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 I'm out of here.
Doesn't have to be alcohol.
Fair enough. I need to find something
Apple
though.
juice. Apple juice.
We'll play that another day. The Miraculous shot game. We'll get that put together later. But no, yeah,
Can
like,
we, watch episodes together and do this, please?
oh my gosh. Well, okay, we'll get that in the works. Okay, how about that? We'll get that in the works. Like, I'll get the workaround for that. Okay, but we'll figure something out because that sounds fun. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, so like, I don't like the lucky charm that Marinette has because I feel like if she has the power of creation, she should be able to control what it is exactly she gets and not leave it up to random chance. Because random chance is chaos. And chaos is destruction.
Yeah.
That bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Like, I get it's random luck chance, and I'm like, no one fucking likes RNG. No one.
The one thing that kind of annoys me overall, that kind of just makes it feel stale with all of it. There's no power progression. Like, there's no power progression at all, or different ways they solve the problem. Other than, oh yeah, my power, special power, woo.
Woo.
I hate you. But no, yeah, that's pretty much it too. Like, there's been a few times where they try to mix things up because I know in one of the episodes, I think it was Octogami. Words. Where Mayura had created a like a butterfly sentient monster to like spy on people, and what was it? Marinette had beat Style Queen without using her lucky charm technically, but it was a little compact mirror. When she was like looking at it and looking behind her, she saw that Nino didn't do the right like high five gesture with Alia and realized that he was like not Nino that way, and then gave Cat Noir a reason to use his cataclysm and use it on the turtle Miraculous to get rid of the Optigami. So yeah. That's a little different, right? Oh my gosh. And then what do you think of some of the other powers that some of the other heroes get? Like, you have the fox with illusions, you have turtle is protection. I mean, that's pretty fine. I mean, I can see that. That's not the turtle's not too bad. I mean, the fox is okay, right? Illusions seems
Yeah.
okay.
Even though I think it's kind of, again, like, it's kind of goes into my same problem. Like, it kind of gets into the same problem of, oh yeah, same powers and staying the same, consistent. Like, there's no growth. And that's kind of another problem. Is like, you have to have some type of change. If you're gonna have, like, a actual, like, there might be, like, little adjustments or little changes that you have to, like, know a little bit of.
they're supposed to be going more into that in like season 5, if I'm not mistaken, where Ladybug should be able to summon and desummon her lucky charm more than once per transformation. I believe Cat Noir will get something like that too, where he can use more than one cataclysm per transformation, if I'm not mistaken. They're also gonna be able to like tap into the memories of past users, I think. And mind you, this is all like, I think it's more speculation. I don't know if it's completely confirmed or not, because Twitter spoilers. I mean, well, and YouTube, I guess. YouTube and Twitter spoilers.
I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
No,
Admittedly,
that's what I'm doing too, but I mean, like, it's supposed to happen in season 5, which, I mean, took you long enough, but I think also another problem that the show has is it doesn't really develop its characters too well. At
see, they have
least not in good
perfect.
pacing.
Yeah, they really do, definitely do. I think the thing that if I was like trying to like clean house, I kind of would try to just do a reboot. I definitely can't see myself wanting to do a reboot. Clean the slate
I mean, what do
and
you
just
think
start.
I'm doing, Ruthless, with the AU?
I
Like,
think
that's exactly what that is. Like, it's completely rebooting what the show, like, not the show, like, what the writing is for it. Because, like,
because like
it's awful.
yeah,
It's
it's
just so
honestly
awful.
it's honestly kind of as bad as like because comics easily has to reboot a lot because there's gonna be some writer that kind of fucks with the character to to the point where it fucks up the character enough that fucks up with the continuity or even does extremely weird shit and there's no clear continuity.
I mean, to be fair, like, they only just now brought in continuity into the Miraculous show, so, like, eh.
And with Miraculous, yeah, like that is the thing, but the pop like the thing is like the pop is the whole aspect of like yeah, you could do hybrid, but you have to like understand that there's
It
going
kind
to
of needs to be
be
planned from the
yeah,
start,
yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah, and also the fact that you have to understand that there's going to be some type of information that someone might need to know instead of just oh yeah, everything stays the same.
And, like, staying the same works for, like, a little kid show. That's the thing. So, like, I can understand that it's very reminiscent of almost Power Rangers, I believe,
Yeah,
where
but at the
it's the
same time,
same thing every single time. There's really like a few other shows like,
Venus, Phoebus, and Verb.
but that was cool. Okay, we can't throw that in the same vein as Miraculous. Like, Phineas and
Yeah.
Ferb was actually cool though.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. They actually do the episodic pretty well.
They
Like they
do,
kind
but
of
like
do it.
it's different enough. Like of course they do the same thing where it's like, "Hey, what do you want to do today?" It's like, "I don't know, let's do this." And then they do it and like it's cool and then it gets taken away. Like that's cool though. Like they did a good job with that. And like it was different enough each time too and like I mean, Candace wasn't always like right off the bat like trying to like get them caught. Like there's times where she would go along with them until their mother would show up and then she's like, "Look, look, look." Like
Yeah.
I appreciated Phineas and Ferb for what it was. Like it did do episodic well. Like in terms like but I feel like you can't really compare it against Miraculous cuz I feel like almost anyone can enjoy Phineas and Ferb is the thing. Like not just
Yeah.
a certain demographic.
Even even if I will grant you that, I would have to also compare like fucking what's the other show name who does hybrid pretty well. The going off of pure memory and just from clips alone. And this is me going off of pure memory. The Office.
Never watched it.
It's just like some like there's some romance plot that's like 10 or something. I also have like a friend of mine that somewhat
Isn't
tried to get me.
isn't Office
Yeah.
a little bit more of a sitcom though?
It is a bit of a more sitcom, but the general like type yeah, it's kind of more a sitcom. Yeah.
But it's like, I think the issue with that kind of thing with the episodic is that it works well with superhero stuff. I'm not gonna lie, like I do enjoy the superhero stuff more actually than the civilian stuff. I actually find the civilian stuff very boring, and even in season 4, it was very difficult for me not to skip all the shit that was going on as like while they were in their civilian forms because like you need context, but at the same time I'm just like I don't fucking care. Just bring on the big baddies. That's all I need.
Admittedly, I kind of have watched like the CW shit. I kind of been exposed to more of the CW hero shit to the point where I'm kind of like the both. But
Well, here's the thing.
with
There are some that do it well, like, because as I'm coming to realize I do enjoy like the superhero genre when it's done well. So like, I don't care for the Disney movies that they've been churning out because it's very actiony, which is good for what it is. But then when you try to shoehorn in like some elements of slice of life or like character development, it just doesn't really land well, or it just kind of makes it drag a little bit more. Now, if obviously from the start, if you're trying to go for a more serious tone, then it works. But typically with a Disney formula, it feels like it's more action based. But then when we
Yeah.
go back to like if we're talking about like TV shows, they do pretty well with that kind of stuff, and it's very enjoyable to watch. Like even now, I fondly remember Young Justice when it aired on Cartoon Network.
Oh,
That
I
was
love that.
I loved it too. Like it actually made me sad when they initially canceled it because I
They
loved it.
they got it back.
I know
They
you were
got it back.
talking about it, but
I love
uh it was yeah, it was definitely something I enjoy. Like I enjoy the powers and like everything like that and how they would do they blended action and plot pretty well. They were I wouldn't they weren't episodic, clearly. Young Justice was very much had plot from the start and you
yeah.
could tell that. So it's not really fair to compare Miraculous to Young Justice, but I'd say it probably more in the vein of like Power Rangers. And Power Rangers definitely got boring after a while because it was the same thing every single time.
Yeah.
And I've heard people call Ladybug a Power Ranger too, so which fair, always fair. Um, no, yeah, it's just the show's got so many problems, and it's actually kind of funny when a lot of the fans turn to fan fiction over the actual show.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because I just joined the Miraculous Reddit page, and most of the posts are fan fiction recommendations. It's great. I also tossed mine in there for potential viewers, so fingers crossed. But if this does well, we'll see about me explaining all that because I will say when it came to time to like write fan fiction for this because I've always wanted to, and thanks to basically the birds chirping in my ear, you guys, mostly Skull and some of the others, chirping in my ear to do this. So like revamping everything, you realize all the problems there are, like how the Kwamis are supposed to be abstract concepts, but they don't quite match up with their powers. Like, okay, the butterfly, for example, is probably the best example I can think of. So it's the Kwame of transmission, and I don't know how well some people's vocabularies are, but transmission means communication, essentially. So the Kwame of communication has the ability to transform people into villains. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. Or like you have Kwamis who are basically the concept of their powers. Like the Kwami of illusions is the fox, the Kwami of teleportation is the horse, and that kind of thing. Um, so it's like, it doesn't quite line up right, and it makes you wonder why they have some of the powers they do, or why are they only based off their powers? Like, why aren't they some other abstract concept? Or
Yeah.
like how the concept doesn't quite match with the animal itself because like bees, like the bee miraculous in show is the Kwame of subjugation, but the problem with that, bees don't symbolize that or represent that in any kind of thing, and especially the fact that pollen I believe is supposed to be more of a honeybee, and honeybees are symbolic of teamwork and devotion and things along those lines, and nothing along that of subjugation, um which does not make sense. So I'm just like, how does that match up? Or the one that bothers me the most is the peacock. Okay, so the peacock in show is the Kwame of emotions, and I'm just like, why? Why emotions for a peacock? Peacocks are very masculine birds. They represent very masculinity, obviously, beauty, regality, nobility, and like stuff along those lines. They do also symbolize sisterhood, but they're often associated with more like masculinity because it's the birds that the male birds are the prettier ones, obviously. Um, they're also very vicious birds, It just makes me wonder, like, why emotions and why sentimonsters? Just doesn't quite add up. And I know it's supposed to add to like the whole episodic formula, but it's like you could do it better though, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Or then like the introduction of time travel.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. Thinking about it, I kind of think about it a little bit. With this show, I don't care for the time travel bullshit.
It confuses me more than anything. So when watching Chat Blanc, and I'm just gonna get this out there right now, I hate time travel. Um, unless there are some exceptions to it, but in terms of like Miraculous and how they handle their time travel, I don't like it because they use it as a cop out. Now, there are some exceptions to this, as I said, like Final Fantasy 13 2 is a bit of an exception because it goes both ways actually. Because Noel, while he's trying to save his future by changing the past, Sarah is also trying to save her future by changing the future. So like it kind of goes both ways, so you kind of can overlook it. And the fact that you spend more time in what is Sarah's future and Noel's past, it just kind of blends. It just makes it fun after a while. I'm like, oh, this ain't too bad.
Yeah.
But with Miraculous, it kind of upsets me, especially when they are the episodes when you could have had the most development. Now, going back to Chat Blanc because of that, um, I think what really confused me was the fact that Marinette remembered the future of Chat Blanc. And I was kind of curious about that because I was always under the impression, like, because usually in when time travel is written into any kind of piece, usually the timeline that could have been is not remembered at all. And that's it. But she remembered, and I'm like, should she? Like, it didn't feel right because I initially assumed that she forgot because that's usually the law, like the laws of it, like they forget about that future. But no, because like in season 4, the trauma of Chat Blanc actually comes forward, and I'm like, that was she remembers that. So
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
it is very weird, and like I suppose I can give a pass for the snake for like just going back 5 minutes, but like, and I can see how he would remember things because it's him. Like he would be pretty much immune to his own power, so he would remember, which makes sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, it just it also because like the snake's supposed to be intuition. I'm like, so how is being able to go back 5 minutes have to deal with gut instincts, essentially? It's I don't know. Again, like some of the what the Kwamis represent don't doesn't feel like it matches with what their power should be, personally.
I'm gonna go to the time travel part, just maybe because I kind of will say this. Yeah, I'll have to say time travel as like a power trope is kind of really, really, really fucking annoying.
It's really messy too.
There, I do remember the one thing from one of the good things of season 4 of Young Justice, if you don't mind spoilers,
Oh, go ahead.
is they kind of do time travel in an interesting way. That's not like doing retcon shit, but they more like use as like a, oh yeah, something might happen in the future,
Okay.
and try to lead way into the whole future part, like stopping a death, like for stopping like the that like the Superboy being the one of the world's greatest superheroes instead of Superman.
Okay. So basically, like,
Because
to just stop things from happening in the future, pretty
yeah,
much.
Yeah.
And see,
And
that
then
kind of gets into like what I was talking about with Final Fantasy 13-2. Like, yeah, you have both the time travelers where you have Sarah going into her future, but Noel going into his past. Like,
hmm,
with Noel, like you can maybe see some annoyances, but like you can also give him a bit of a pass because he's the last human alive. So like, because you see his future. His future's been destroyed by means that weren't even in his control. It's just freak accident basically. Because the pillar that was keeping Cocoon up crashed and came tumbling down, and it was something like probably no one saw coming. So it's like, okay, like you can see why he'd go back in time or why he'd be sent back. And then Sarah, she's trying to help him save her future and basically just changing his past but her future. It's like again, like it mixes, but it works well because you're spending
yeah,
more time what is in technically the future than in the past. Now, if it was something like if they weren't back in time, like before the events of the first game, I would have issue with that then. But they didn't,
yeah,
so it was spending more time in the future, and I think that's how you make it work a little bit better. Is where you just like they kind of did that with Chat Blog too, which is what made it interesting. But then they retconned it, and I think that's what made me mad. Like it worked until it didn't.
see, with Young Justice, they kind of showed like they kind of have like characters that explain it that were from the future. No one from the past going to the future,
Okay.
and that was like kind of one of the big plot. Like it was kind of more like a tool, like part of the plot. So I kind of thought it was like wasn't too egregious overall. Too egregious. It's
Like it was
actually
digestible.
yeah.
Like nothing that's gonna make you tear out your hair and scream at like the screen, essentially.
I I honestly just found like season three kind of a little bit. I kind of found it a little bit annoying because it just introduced way too many characters. But I'll ignore that tangent.
Well,
Um,
the funny thing is like that kind of happened with Miraculous too because they started introducing way too many heroes in my opinion and introducing new characters to replace old characters. So like they introduced Chloe's half sister Zoe to be the new B Miraculous.
oh boy,
Yep. Um Then they started giving out more Miraculouses to their classmates. So like Ivan got the ox, Milan got the mouse. Um, some of the like art boy got the goat, I
I
think.
I just realized
Yeah.
a common problem with a lot of the big shows. Like I even got reference CW, even though I have a very much strong dislike of those superhero CW shows.
You're good.
They definitely put way too many fucking characters and throw in characters that doesn't make sense there, and then they just expand like the cast so
So
wide.
rapidly and wide and things like that. Like it's better. So here's the thing. And obviously it depends on the person and what you're writing and things like that. But sometimes things can be better in smaller scales.
Yeah,
And you also need to keep in mind that when you're designing characters, they kind of need to have a purpose a lot of the time. You can still have background characters that might pop up here and there, but I think with writing a lot nowadays, and like what I see just is like basic criticism that some people do have is how some characters that are introduced may have no point or like they shouldn't have been created because they're filler, the background filler. And sometimes that's not bad, and I feel like Miraculous tried to do something with its characters where of course like it's going to be a class of people and they're going to be in Marinette's life obviously because well Marinette and Adrian I suppose because again they're students, they're classmates and all that jazz. But I think the issue it had is when it decided to actually give those classmates superpowers because you can kind of tell with some of the powers and even the designs a little bit that it's a little not
Janky.
polished. Yeah, janky,
Yeah.
not polished. Some of them do work, kind of. Um, just one that probably really kind of bothers me is the rooster and how I believe it's the rooster. Um, my memories on certain Kwamis are a little wonky, but I believe it's the rooster who can mimic almost any power, basically, which is like why, for starters. Um, it doesn't really feel like it matches with the rooster because roosters are mean little fuckers. I feel like the
Yeah.
rooster should have had something else for his powers because, oh boy, like I've had I haven't dealt with roosters, but I've seen roosters in person and how they act, and holy fuck, they are nasty creatures.
They are. They really are. I remember dealing with one because I was in. I was actually. I was in. I remember I was at someone's house that was in the farms, and that fucking rooster. I went over to my hand, and that shit just viciously pecked my hand.
Oh, then if we're on the topic of roosters, let me share this real quick story for you. So when I used to work at TJ Maxx, I don't recommend anyway. I had one. It's, I guess, team captain, essentially team lead, or whatever you want to call it. She managed the back rooms, and I believe she does live on a farm because I know she deals with horses and things like that. She was telling me about a rooster that either she used to have or her family used to have, but it was a mean little fucker, and it always went after her. Well, there was one day it was charging up on her, and it jumped ready to attack her. She turned and punched it, and it ran off. It didn't bother her after that. But it was going in to like strike with its feet. It wasn't just gonna peck, it was gonna like scratch. It was gonna go for the kill. Essentially, kind of thing. But no, yeah, like, the roosters are mean little fuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of the Kwamis don't actually make sense to what they are. I mean, like the ox's resilience, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which makes sense. They're big creatures and things like that. And its power is invulnerability for I think like 5 minutes maybe or a minute. I don't know, something like that. Which fair, I guess, but like, eh. And, like we have
Other,
the dog who's like fetch, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I hate that.
Yeah, like the power is literally fetch. Like anything their ball touches, they can recall it, and I'm like, interesting. It's like,
I hate that.
well, that's again like that bothers me. It's like you have a power made more for the animal than like the concept, because you
Yeah.
have creation and destruction, which those powers work for their concepts. If you want to call them abstract concepts, at least it's kind of a little muddy water. I guess it's concepts because like you can't really grasp the whole thing of creation and destruction kind of thing. Even if it's like a clear line of what they are, they're also abstract in a way. It's muddied. It's muddy. But no, like it really feels like that some of the powers are made for the animals and not necessarily for the concept itself, or like the concept is the powers, and I'm like, why? There's so many things you could have done with this. It bothers me so much. And also, while perusing the Miraculous wiki, Ruthless, I found that there's actually a second miracle box filled with, I think it's the Chinese miracle box they have in Paris, and there's supposed to be a Native American miracle box.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. I gotta say this up front. I don't care. I don't really like the way that they do like give out the powers.
See, that's for some. So, okay, my biggest issue is that these are supposed to be divine beings, essentially. They are powerful creatures that came basically into creation when these abstract concepts were a thing. Like, were, first kind of thought up, developed, or whatever the case may be. But why are they being handed out by an old man, or like just men in general? Like, why do
My my question is, why is the old man keeping a bunch of what are essentially demigods trapped in a box?
That's it.
It-
It's like, why? Like, so again, I'm gonna refer back to like my rewrite of it because that was something that bothered me. It's like these, like you said, Skull, they're basically demigods or like just celestial beings or whatever the fuck you want to call it, but they're trapped by an old man and given out by him. Why? Like, I get they're powerful, but they don't seem that powerful unless like, and then the whole like a Kwami can't use its powers without its holder or else there'll be dangerous consequences, and I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? Like these are basically gods. They should be
See,
able to do whatever they want.
yeah, I can see what one thing I can definitely see if they like another way to do the whole Master Shu shit is like make him like like he was a veteran like a veteran hero, and then he has to like retire, and then he had to be some type of guardian and has to like contain them. And if the Kwamis go a bit more rogue, like they can't physically go into this world because it would just corrupt the world more. And then the monster of the week shit could easily be the corruption
So
solution.
that's if you want to keep Master Fu. Like Master Fu is just the writer's proxy,
Yeah.
and it's not really necessary in my opinion. And like, so here's like if okay, so like as I said, going back to like the AU I'm writing because I had to basically rework a lot of what was in the show and change a fair amount of it to. No, I'm gonna say this right now. The show is made for kids. What I'm writing is made for adults. I'm gonna say that up front. Well, I say adults, more like a teens, adults kind of thing. You get it, like young adults to new adults, essentially. But it's made for an older audience, is the fine point. And like I said, like it bothers me that these creatures that are basically the manifestations of the universe are basically gods in their own right are trapped in a box and have to do the bidding of men. That is my biggest issue with this. And I did change it where there is no Master Fu and the Kwamis govern themselves. They choose their own holders, they manage their own jewels and things like that. I make it like as I write, more of it does come out how they can become trapped in their jewels, how they even got in their jewels in the first place, and like, but it just don't understand how it works in terms of like the canon and why it works the way it does.
See,
Why are they in these jewels? Why do they have to be governed by humans essentially? Why do the humans get to decide what the Kwamis can and can't do? Why can't the Kwamis decide that? These beings who have literally existed since the dawn of time. Why?
yeah, that's one thing that just doesn't make sense. And immediately, I just say the whole line and literally just get that idea because it's literally the most easiest adjustment to the whole show that I can definitely see works way better than what's going on currently and let shit make sense. Like, there's always one guardian, and the whole one, there was a guardian role that would just give out the shit. And there you go. That would make way more sense if you were trying to do that. But I wouldn't. I kind of don't would don't want that shit.
It just it makes me sad because like it's like I said, it's fine for kids, but then you have adults like us who do consume this show or consume it in other ways and actually watching it. And we do have to subjugate ourselves to the logic of what is a kid show, but then also what's trying not to be a kid show at the same time. With like again all the plot and everything, like it's trying at some of the dark elements, but I don't know. it just doesn't feel like it works out too well. And there's so many things and ideas that aren't executed properly. Characters that had good, like were good before, but lost that as time went on. And it just bad messages and all that stuff, and it's just it makes me sad because the show definitely could be a lot better. Definitely a lot better.
Yeah,
And to
it really can.
anyone, real quick, to anyone who watches this far and says like, if you think you can do better, then do it. I'm like, all I gotta say is I fucking am. Let's go. But no, yeah. So,
I'm gonna say, I know I am not like some loud. I'm just a loudmouth idiot on the internet that just give my opinion and just say like it is. So I'm not like a professional writer or anything. I'm too dyslexic for that.
that's a mood. I mean, I've wanted to do this for a while because there's so many ways to improve the show than what it actually is, and it just could be so much better. Bless you. Also, Skull, guess what I just found? I found the French version of Chat's song from the Christmas special. Give me a second. I'm going to post it to the Discord for you, buddy. It's only a minute long, so it's a real quick listen. But I think you can agree with me. Like the voice is, it's pretty good. It's got the English lyrics too, I believe. So enjoy. But the show is far from done. I think it's got another few seasons greenlit.
Ah,
Yeah, you heard me.
ah.
I just hope they do more with it, cause on some level I do enjoy it. Um, it's got good elements to it for a kid's show, but then there's also the adult in me who's like, I want more though. I want to see you dive more into things. It's why I enjoy consuming media like Hell of a Boss or Has Been Hotel. Well, not really Has Been. Has Been is has been. It's fluffy. But Hell of a Boss is it's adult. Even more adult than like Family Guy and American Dad, but it's so good because of it. Like it goes into those darker issues and more complex characters, and I admit I don't really I can leave or take the whole demon horniness aspect, but it's a really good show, and that's the reason why it's so good is because of the characters, the darkness of it. It's so good, and I want to see that more. And we have seen that you can do this stuff with kids shows. Look at fucking Steven Universe. Like, don't get me wrong. Steven Universe has its flaws in the way that it handles like some of its characters, like Pink Diamond, but it does tackle those kind of issues of like trauma and dealing with like certain like past and whatnot, and just dealing with like different types of people and that kind of stuff. Like there is those darker elements, and Steven Universe is a kids show, so you can't say we can't have these darker elements in kids shows when it's been done before.
And also, like, I, I won't. Well, I'm gonna avoid. I will even say like Adventure Time had some dark elements.
Adventure Time was a fucking trip, man. And I don't know what you mean by
Yeah,
some. Like after
I'm gonna
Flame
be very.
Princess and Finn broke up, it went from like this whole like Finn being a goofy kid and whatnot, just going on adventures, to a whole exponential fucking trip, man.
Yeah,
Like there was no just some dark themes. It turned dark.
yeah, yeah.
And like it was still
I'm actually.
considered kids show too. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's the great thing. It is a good show.
Yeah, like, so you
Loved
can't
it.
tell me that you can't have dark stuff in kids shows. I mean, even for like movies, for example, for like now again, I know these aren't fair comparisons, but they are labeled kids movies. So fuck off. Things like Zootopia, which dives into like technically racism more or less with
Yeah.
like the predators and the prey, or even I guess a little bit of like not really sexism, but like kind of like with Judy, like she's been told her entire life that she'll never be a cop, and how she, as both a woman and a bunny, had to work a lot harder versus more bigger animals than her. Not just predators, because like there was some herbivores like prey, well prey in quotes, but like herbivores that were police officers still. But like because of what Judy was and how she was born and everything, she had to work twice, if not triple as hard as these other cadets who were born with a more like an advantage over her essentially. It's like you can have those dark elements there and it still be a kids thing. Because I know many people still consider Zootopia a kids movie. Or even Frozen for that fucking matter. Frozen, the Disney princess movie, the kids movie, goes into topics with a manipulative little bastard of a villain, which is still one of the best ones. Fight me on that. Um, and you have one. I can't say it's the first one because I think Disney might have attempted to do this in the past, but Elsa to them is one of their first characters. I'd say first Disney princess technically, who has depression, and her whole arc is coming out of depression. They have literally come out and said that it's a movie about depression and sisterly love.
I
So
see.
it's like you can't tell me kids media cannot have dark topics. You can lightly go around them at times, obviously, but like you can't tell me they can't just have them. Because like even for, I know people are like, it doesn't seem like depression. I'm like, first of all, oh, it's depression. As someone who struggled with that in the early 20s, that what Elsa went through was very much depression. Granted, obviously, she got over it faster than most of us would because it's a Disney movie. It still works. That is what depression can look like. And what she did to come out of it is what it looks like too. Because really, to come out of your depression, you have to shift your entire center, like your entire focus. Like, you have to completely accept yourself to be able to, like, come out of the stage of depression that you're in. And that's what Elsa does. And like you can't tell me that kid stuff cannot have dark topics. Things like Miraculous can't have dark topics. Or even if it does, it can go into them a lot more and not just write themselves into a corner, basically. I think that's also what bothers me is the whole like the world will end if we make a wish. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Just have consequences. Consequences aren't that hard to write. But it must be if there's no consequences to their main character before season 4. So, yeah, no, it's also, I just want to get this out right now because I'm going to have a problem with it. And it's just everywhere in this fandom at this point. It's pissing me off personally. But I hate when people call so many people in the show simps. So fucking much. I'm actually growing to hate the word so much more every single day because of this fandom. Like, I cannot stress it more. Because here's my thing. I understand, like, and mind you, I'm a romantic. Keep this in mind. Like, I don't really understand romantic attraction all that well. I can understand some romantic feelings, but there's some gestures and things like that that just kind of like go over my head, and I don't fully understand the why of it when there's really supposed to be no why of it anyway. But that's a discussion for a different time. But it just bothers me how you have these people who are like, oh, this person's a simp because of this, and I'm like, love is strange. And in this show, love is toxic. I wouldn't say these people are simps, but they are in toxic relationships. And it bothers me to no fucking end when people say that shit. Cause like, I get it. Marinette and Adrian may seem like simps for each other. Marinette's a yandere. That's why. And Adrian is
Yeah.
just. He's a fucking clueless ass boy. What else do you fucking expect? He is a boy who's been stuck in his house with a stupidly overprotective father who barely lets him explore the world. And that if Adrian slips up the tiniest bit, he strips him of all his freedoms. How do you expect a boy like that to act? As someone who's kind of been in his situation before, it fucking sucks. You don't fucking know how to deal with people. You don't know how to fucking interact with anyone. So, yeah, people tend to latch on, and it's a very real thing. I've latched on to people in my past. I'm sure we've all done it before. And the way I see it is that he just kind of latches on, and he just doesn't know when to stop because he just never had that kind of social interaction before. And learning is part of the process. Or like Natalie, which they did so dirty, but that's neither here nor there. Natalie deserved better. But like how she was willing to do all this for Gabriel just because she just so wanted his love, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I think it's said best in Hercules by like the Disney movie Hercules, where both of them, both Megara and Hercules, say to each other, people do crazy things when they're in love. And like, I agree. People do. I mean, and again, it's not healthy. That's the point. Like, Natalie's relationship with Gabriel is meant to be unhealthy. It is toxic. I don't know if that was necessarily their intention to display, but it is clear enough to see. And that is why I hate seeing so many people say, like, oh, these people are all simps and things like that. And I'm like, no, you're missing the context of the relationships. Marinette is a yandere who is, yes, sick in the head with love and just wants Adrian's attention, but it's because she is latched on and is obsessed with him.
Also, isn't like yandere literally Japanese? Like I
Yeah, sick in the
remember.
head with love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
literally what it is. That's literally what she is. You could, I can't really say Adrian's the exact same way. You could, his behaviors doesn't really match a yandere, but he is also sick in the head with love too. Because like
In a different way,
yeah,
though.
he's a different way. In a different way, he is a yandere too, but not in the way that Marinette matches the Japanese version of a yandere. It's like
That's why I hate what's her Marinette because she's
because
just
she's
too
the
yonder.
she's the cookie cutter Japanese yandere.
Yeah.
And again, like Adrian technically could fall into this too because he is like sick in the head with love for Ladybug, and he just can't see past that. Which I don't have there been. I don't really consume too much anime per se, especially when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I really don't like yanderes myself. Aren't there like some yanderes that just don't know when to quit? Basically, that whole like they keep
Yeah.
pushing and pushing. Yeah, so like he kind of is a yandere. He is a yandere. Hot take: Adrian's a yandere.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, come at me.
Just have her less psychotic.
No, yeah,
Like
it's
they're
like
mostly.
Marina's definitely the more psychotic version of a yandere, but then
Yeah.
Adrian's that low key yandere, but they're basically yanderes. I get, but you could also just like say it's young love, but I'm just like, no, it's obsession. It's not love, it's obsession. Um,
Yeah, it is.
again,
That's the
like,
part that makes it painful.
that is what makes it painful. But then, like, again, like then you have like Natalie, who basically, yeah, it's a toxic relationship. She's willing to do anything to help Gabriel achieve his goals. Now it's hinted that she's in love with him. And like they do have moments where like Gabriel and Natalie might like obviously like be like heading towards a relationship or whatever the case may be, but it's not explicitly said that she's in love with him. And there are people who can be so devoted to a person but not be in love with them. It is possible. And it is very easy to read love into Natalie's situation that she is so in love with Gabriel, but again, that would also make her a yandere. Oh my gosh. This show is just a yandere simulator. But no, I'd say with Natalie, it can go either way, personally. Where she could either be like so in love with Gabriel that she's willing to do anything for him, and I wouldn't say simp because it bothers me. You call it what you will, but that's great. People do crazy things when they're in love. That's what that is.
To be,
I'm
to
gonna
be
pull
fair,
out my
simp is
keyboard
supposed to
and
be more
say,
like.
go on like some forum and say simp
Gosh,
about that just out of pure shit poster
stupid.
energy.
I mean, it just the fandom kind of bothers me at times. It's just I had to go on that tangent because I see some miraculous YouTubers. Like I don't want to name drop, but there's this one guy who's like, "Who is the simpiest simp of season this?" And I'm like, I hate everything you fucking stand for. Like the hatred is real with that, but oh my gosh.
I mean, technically speaking, if we wanted to get like, really accurate with the term, a simp is supposed to be the description for a guy, like a straight guy.
Is this supposed to be just
Who,
like a nice guy TM?
yeah,
Nice guy,
basically.
but like, imagine letting a lot of shit just happen that's not okay for him.
Yeah, it's
Just how
basically
like,
almost like a nice guy, essentially,
yeah.
more or less. But yet people like to use the term so loose and freely, and I'm just like, I hate everything. But no, yeah. So, oh my gosh, the show
Immediately I gotta
is.
use the word just to people. Like, if the audience have not known, I am a massive troll.
Yes, welcome to Ruthless 101. He is a shit poster. But no, yeah, so I don't know the way that the fandom treats some of the characters and just like that stuff and just like the character and how they're handled in show itself isn't really good either. It's just the show's a mess, the fandom's a mess. We're not gonna get into the fandom though because it reminds me a lot of the Steven Universe fandom. And I think to be fair, at this point, any fandom's gonna be like that. So I'm just like, but I feel like it's worse because the fandom for Miraculous knows the show is shit. So they actively kind of like shit on it altogether. And then you have the few people who
Sounds like
try
the
to defend the
Homestuck
show.
fandom. Sounds like the Homestuck fandom.
Yeah, so yeah, you're already familiar with this type of fandom.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I,
no,
I think I've only been in one fandom, one specific fandom.
I've been in a few, but yeah,
Like
so
that.
it, but moving on from the fandom thing, like I don't know, like I think I've rambled on a lot about this. You guys have any thoughts, questions, or anything?
Like just general thoughts on anything.
Regarding the show at least, or like anything regarding the show fandom, show itself, characters,
Yeah.
story, so on and so forth. Yeah.
It's a very hard show to watch, especially early on with how whiny some of the villains are.
I think that's also another thing that kind of bothers me is how the Butterfly Miraculous works, and it only targets people who feel slightly negative emotions.
Yeah.
I think that really bothers me. Like, and I did my best to change that in my rewrite. How it targets dark desires, or at least not necessarily. It comes off as dark desires because they can be twisted into that, but things that we as humans would repress and never let see the light of day because we see them as wrong in one way or another. And again, the line between what's right and wrong is very skewed and can be very gray because what's right to one person can be wrong to another in that kind of degree. It's like it feels like the show's almost like telling you don't feel any negative emotions at all, which is very unhealthy. And for someone who has the misfortune of dealing with heart problems that if I hold back my negative emotions, I make things worse for myself. That don't ever hold back your emotions. Don't hold your anger in, don't hold your sadness in, don't let any of that build. Like let it out. It's healthier to let it out than to bottle. Because if you bottle, you'll hurt yourself. And I've done that a few times. Oh, well, it was a nice nap though afterwards. I'll say that. Then I waste the day napping anyway. So, yeah, fun stuff, fun stuff, fun stuff. But no, yeah, the villains in the beginning are very whiny. The only villain I'd say was actually decent in the beginning was actually Stormy Weather. I also liked Copycat. I'm not gonna lie, I liked the whole idea of the sculptor who wanted to date Marinette, which I well, not Marinette, but like Ladybug, and I'm just like, this sculptor looks like he's an adult, and Ladybug's a teenager. I'm like, this feels weird. I don't know
Yeah.
how it goes over there in France, but to me that was weird because the guy felt like he was like 18 or 19, maybe even just 20. I'm just like, okay, we're not gonna touch that, but I
We don't
I
talk
didn't.
about Bruno.
Well, I also tried to do my best to do some research into like French schools and things like that when it came to the rewrite. And while I was also doing my research into like the canon characters and their ages and whatnot, like Marinette and Adrian are supposed to be like 14 at this current point in this show. And one thing that confuses me, because I don't know if it works the same way in France, but like Julika is supposed to be like 15, 16. So which means she's like 2 years older than Marinette. So why is she in middle school when she should be in high school? Is my kind of
Starting
question.
school, starting school late, getting held back.
It's, I'm not sure because like I think she's one of the few people that's actually like that old. Everyone else is like 14, 15 roughly. It comes off really weird, especially as like since her brother seems like he's not actually that age either. That he's supposed to be older as he's attending like career fairs as one of like the people behind the booths. And I'm like, what? Why? What's going on here? I'm confused. So yeah, no, the ages confuse me. The writing confuses me. The characters
I don't
confuse
know,
me.
but they probably just didn't think about it.
They probably didn't. Let's be fair. I want to make them twins for no other reason than I want to.
Yeah, we gotta have to make twins because don't we all love those twins?
I think
Especially
to
those
be
kids
fair, the
love them.
reason why he wanted to do that is because season 4, episode 1 is called Truth, which oh my gosh. So they do the like whole thing where like Marinette, not Marinette, is it Marinette? Uh, like Marinette and Lou's trying to like date Luca, but obviously she has to keep running off to be Ladybug, and he's starting to feel like she's not that interested in him because she just can't tell him the truth, which again is bullshit. But we don't get into that. We've already done that. Uh, it's kind of funny. I don't remember what they were talking to prior, but then all of a sudden it shifts. And then Luca just drops, I never knew my father. I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? He just comes out of nowhere. He just kind of looks at the ground and he's like, I never knew my father. I'm like, cool. I don't care. Oh my gosh. And then he gets turned into truth, so we can find out Marinette's secret and his mother's secret about who his father is. And I think the only reason why he wanted to make them twins is because of who he wanted the father to be.
The mayor.
No,
Oh God, don't tell me.
take a guess. Take your guess. Who do you think it is?
I don't want to.
Take a guess. Come on, we've already started.
Some random French dude.
Even better, a rock star named Jagged Stone. I think that's really the only reason why he made them twins is so he could have Jagged Stone be their father. So yeah, take that with what you will. And like, I don't know. It was so weird. Oh my gosh. Again, the execution of some of these ideas. Because again, he just drops that he never knew his father, and I'm like, why do I care? Have you given me a reason to care? No? Okay, why are you telling me this? Kind of thing. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Oh, the show's a mess. But again, I feel like I've rambled a lot. Either of you got any more comments?
It's honestly messy as a comic, as a can be messy as a comic book.
I think the original concept was a comic book for like the Ladybug. It was actually supposed to be a lot darker, like an actual comic, like what you'd see for like Marvel and DC kind of thing. Which I think would have been a lot cooler, but like that's just me. I like the darker stuff.
I don't mind the darker stuff either, mainly because I've kind of been exposed to a lot of the darker stuff.
I mean, I think we all have, and like it's just life.
Yeah.
Personally, like
Yeah.
you kind of gotta have that stuff in there and like just expose people to it. Like these are just facts of life in some of these things. So it's like it feels more like if you don't include it, it's more of a disservice than anything else. And even then, like little kids won't understand it at the time anyway. The adults will. The poor adults that have to fucking deal with this bullshit while they watch it 7 million times will have to. But like the kids won't. That's why that's why I hate watching actual like little kids shows like for 2 to 4 year olds. That
Like Dora.
stuff. Oh my gosh. Dora, the like dog show on Disney Plus, the Mickey and Minnie stuff. That stuff's torture. It's why at least that's why I say Miraculous is more for people who are like probably like 5, 6 to like 8 or 9. But after that, people just get fed up with it. But yeah, any other thoughts, questions, concerns, comments, Ruthless Skull?
No, other than don't recommend if you really are just feeling masochistic.
Shut the fuck up. Some of us remotely enjoy the show, okay? Some of the characters we have hope for, even though if that hope is misplaced. But you know what they say, hope brings eternal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, it's if you feel like you can handle the episodic beginnings and try to stomach the transition into a more plot driven kind of plot driven in quotes, it's still episodic. But it has its moments. I don't know. It's it's a mess. It's a mess. Its fandom knows it. It embraces that. It's why people turn to fan fiction with this show.
Yeah.
It's great though. But if you guys don't have anything else, I think we can wrap that up. That was a fun little spiel. A lot of turning around in circles, but I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
Someone's tired.
I may or may not have drank a rock star, and I'm trying not to fall asleep at my
Okay,
desk.
that's your own fault there, but all right. So I will say that is all for us. This has been our miraculous Ladybug episode. Feel free and hate us or agree, but hate us is what I see happening. Anyway,
Mm.
you guys have a good night, morning, evening, day, whatever the case may be, and we'll see you next week.